Hello friends, today I'm going to show you how to create a form based on a table that we've already created. So we are going to go to localhost/a to get us into the admin panel, and then under tables we can see that table here. It was the project table that we created. This is a list view of the the data that we put in there. We only have one record so far. The CSS is making it fill the whole screen. We can edit the record here and click this icon that nobody in today's generations are going to know what that is, but we can save it that way. Okay, other functions that we have here is we could add a completely new record in the database using the plus button, and there's also a properties button here. I just wanted to show you one other thing. This page, if you remember, determined that this project status was going to be a select list, a drop-down list box, and we have the true values that we're going to see, and then the values that are going to be stored or shown in that list box. So when the user selects, they're going to see new, in progress, and complete, but the database is going to store 1, 2, or 3. Also up here we selected that this was going to be required. Now that's the form enforcing that that value has to be filled in. We can also make the database do the enforcement if we come over here to the list of fields and we say not null. That's the database command, that constraint that makes the field in the database have a value. If we tried to try to enter a record into the database that didn't have a status now, it wouldn't like us. So now we're going to create a new page based on the projects. I actually already did that. We're going to click on pages and add new, and then we would have project, and this is this would just be blank, and we would have would give it a name here. Project, I like objects to have singular names. Titles, it doesn't matter, that's human readable. And that's the title is what's going to be in the title bar of the web page on the tab. Okay, and we're using the main template. Okay, we give it a description. We can give it a meta description. These are just keywords that Google would use as it crawls our site to be able to index and direct people to our site. Okay, but we get a basic controller for free. We get, but there's blank functions, and the body is also blank. So you remember that we want to use post edit to edit the documents. It just lets us use a text editor rather than this text field here. It's just a little easier. So I'm going to open up a command prompt. For me, I like to run it as administrator, but I don't think that it's required. And then we're going to go to the WaSQL folder. I'm going to do a get pull just to show you how to do that. It's going to see any changes that were made to the project recently, and then I'm going to run post edit. So I do the letter P for post edit, and then whichever server I want to listen to. So I'm going to listen to localhost. Now those are connected, and then here in Sublime's, the editor that I'm using today, is still evaluating that. So if I make a change here in this web page, then that post edit will insert it into the database or update the changes there. Alright, so we're going to start with the functions. So in the functions, we're going to call a function that's part of WaSQL that will create a form for us. So let's create a function. called, um, let's call it show project form. Okay, and then we need some squiggly braces, and we're going to return a add edit db form. That's the name of the function. Now it needs to know which table are we going to show it, or do we want to show, and it is expecting an array. So let's create an options array. There's lots of different options that we can pass in. I'm going to create this options array, and it's just going to be an empty array to start with. And so one of the options that we can tell it, now there's lots of ways that you can do this syntax. So I'm just going to use a most basic method this so that it doesn't look too complicated. So we're going to say options, and we use the square brackets, and then in quotes we can tell it which table. Now table is built into WaSQL, and so the name of the tables of the table field is dash table. So dash table, and that's just the name of, it's like a reserved word. So in WaSQL the reserved words either have dashes or underscores to start. So we're going to say that the table that we want to load is called project. Alright, and then we end each line with a semicolon. And now this is passing to add edit db form an array, and the array only has one element, and it's the table, and wants to show the project. Now we can come back to the page, and we can say here, I'm going to create a little PHP tag here so that we can call the function. And then you'll remember that the page is HTML, so we have to declare the PHP tag. So now I'm just going to echo what's going to come back from the function show show project form. Okay, and there were no parameters calling it right now. So we're on the project page, so we know that we're looking at projects. We're going to show what's coming back from this function, and this function was calling this add edit db form. Now if we go to our browser, we can see this form by going to localhost, and then we're going to look at project, the project page. Alright, now this came back blank. That's not what I was expecting. So I'm going to look at the more tools. This is in Edge Explorer. It's the same in Google Chrome. I just don't want to use Chrome to have all of my personal stuff in there. So, but if I look at more tools and then developer tools, Steve, the author of WaSQL, has added this tag. When he detects an error, he can at least tell us where the error is. So in this case, there is, the error was in the file pages function, and he can tell us that it was around line 7, and that he found a brace, but he's expecting a semicolon. So if we go look at the functions page, we can see that, oh yeah, this line right here needs a semicolon. I save that. The little chime means that it got pushed to the database correctly. And now if we come back here to our page, now here's our form. Now the CSS here is not very good, so we can, I'm going to close these developer tools, so we can come back here and let's change this a little bit. Let's add in, let's add a div and call this class a container, and then we can even add another one. Jumbotron, this is using Bootstrap, so those are basic classes in Jumbotron, and then we want to close that div and close that div and save it again. Come back here, and there, that looks a little better. So we have a container, and inside the container is a Jumbotron. That just gives us the highlighting there, and this default footer is there. Okay, we have a menu bar. That's also part of the template that we chose. So we can say a new project here is to fix fix the flat tire. And this project, like we said, this is a drop-down list now. This is status is still new, and we can save that. Now, the next thing we want to do is build an interface into this form so that we can see a list of projects below it, or yeah, the projects that we've entered. We can still go see that that record was saved if we come back to our project, and if we look here in the table and we come to projects, we now have these two records here, fix the flat, wash and wax, but we still don't have that on the front end. So in the next video we'll create a list view on the front end.